she has a right to life too.
Sure.
Even in that case, you think she should have the child?
I do.
She should be forced to have the child.
I think, I don't want that to sound like I don't have tremendous compassion for her and her circumstance. I wish we could put an end to 10-year-olds being raped. I'm trying to work against child sexual abuse because I think that's atrocious.
But you don't see forcing a 10-year-old child to go to term with a baby from rape as abuse of a child?
I see it as horrible. I see it as preferable to killing someone.
That was Bart Barber. He's the head of the Southern Baptist Convention, which claims a weekly attendance of over 3.6 million. And Barber wants to be clear. He doesn't support child abuse, unless that means forcing a 10-year-old girl to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term. And just wait. Barber has a lot more to say.
Do you still believe that gay people should be converted out of being gay?
I believe that sinners should be converted out of being sinners, and that applies to all of us.
Can somebody be a good Christian, a member of the Southern Baptist Convention, and be gay or lesbian and married to a person of the same sex?
No.
Barber and the Southern Baptists aren't afraid to preach the idea of gay conversion, a practice widely regarded as a human rights abuse across the developed world. And there's a reason why Barber and his pals are so comfortable talking like this. Because across the country, Christian nationalism is surging, and it's finding a welcoming home in the Republican Party. It wasn't always like this. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Christian nationalism we see today was a fringe movement pushed by a small group of extremists. They rejected the authority of the government. They believed their faith called on them to do anything necessary to advance Christian ideology. Until Ronald Reagan, most serious Republicans rejected these nutcases. Well, times have changed. Over the past decade, Christian nationalism has exploded from the fringe to the very heart of Republican life, and it's making its way into the mainstream of American culture, too. Take a look at this from Reverend Brandon Robertson.
This book is now number 12 on the Amazon bestsellers list. Christian Nationalism, a biblical guide for taking dominion and discipling nations. Let me just be clear, as a Christian pastor and theologian, there is not a single command in the teachings of Jesus that calls for the disciples of Christ to take dominion of anything. The path for transforming the world according to Jesus takes place through doing loving acts of service to our neighbors and even to our enemies. It's not about subjecting people, forcing them to conform to our beliefs, our values, or the values of the kingdom of God.
Now, like the good Reverend said, Christian dominionism is literally the act of enforcing Christianity on others, whether they want it or not. But there's also a name on that book that should stick out to you. Andrew Torba, the founder of the far-right social network Gab. And if you don't know Andrew Torba, well, I really envy you. Torba is a true believer in Christian dominionism. Such a believer, in fact, that he refuses to do any interviews with Jewish reporters. He believes only Christians should have the right to vote. Oh, and he also served as a consultant to Pennsylvania's Republican candidate for governor, Doug Mastriano. Mastriano refused to condemn Torba's anti-Jewish remarks even when asked by multiple people. There have always been people who believe Christian theology should be the law of the land, but they've never had as much support in the Republican Party as they do today. Think about that. Multiple people, including a Jewish Republican group, have demanded Mastriano stop using anti-Semitic tropes against his Jewish opponent, Josh Shapiro. Mastriano has refused. Christian nationalism isn't just dangerous because it makes a mockery of the separation of church and state. It's about what Christian nationalism enables its believers to do. When you're fighting in the name of God, you can justify some pretty terrible things. We saw that in Buffalo, New York, where a gunman murdered 10 people in a grocery store. And here's the really scary thing. That gunman didn't even identify as religious. But he did agree with the Christian nationalist view that white people are the race chosen by God to rule. And everywhere we look, Christian nationalism and racial purity theories are marching hand in hand. And no place amplifies the Christian nationalist line quite like Fox News. According to the Washington Post, Fox regulars including Ann Coulter, Charlie Kirk, Matt Walsh, and Tucker Carlson, and now Kanye West, have all embraced the replacement theory. And in Kanye's case, he's thrown in some secret Jewish conspiracies too. Here's your Rebel HQ pop quiz. Do you think these people who believe God is calling them to dominate non-Christians at any cost care even a little bit about the results of an election? If you said no, you're right. That's why it's so scary that dozens of great replacement-believing Christian nationalist Republicans are poised to win elections that give them control over who counts the votes and how those votes get counted. The only way to stop the terrifying march of Christian nationalism is to beat it at the ballot box. Well, there's still a ballot box at all. But Democrats have so far been weirdly silent about the deafening connections between the Christian nationalist right and the most powerful figures in the modern Republican Party. In some cases, it's been Jewish Republican groups that have been leading the way. That's not good. But we also need more than votes. We need the Department of Justice to recognize Christian nationalism as the domestic terror threat it truly is. How many more Buffalo shootings do we need to see that this madness is spiraling completely out of control? Time is running out to rebuild the wall between church and state. If Democrats lose in 2022 and 2024, that wall is coming down entirely. If you made it to the end, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a like and consider subscribing. And leave a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.